everyone. Today we're going to talk about the Canadian Pale. This is the layout of a particular flag pattern known as a Canadian Pale. A Canadian Pale consists of 3 vertical bands where the central band is the same thickness as the 2 outer bands combined, giving us a band ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. The Canadian Pale applies to vertical bands. There's a horizontal equivalent known as the Spanish fess. We made a video talking about the Spanish fess and looked at all the country flags that use it, so be sure to check that out. So back to the Canadian Pale. Currently, there are just 2 national flags that use the Canadian Pale design. Given the name of the design, we're sure all of you can figure out what one of these countries is. We're going to show you the other country first. Here is the flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The flag consists of a vertical tricolor of blue, yellow, and green. The yellow stripe is charged with 3 green diamonds which are arranged in a V shape. As far as this video is concerned, the most important feature of the flag is the stripe ratio. The yellow stripe is twice the thickness of each of the blue and green stripes, and this of course means the flag uses a Canadian Pale design with a stripe ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. So which other country flag uses a Canadian Pale? The answer of course is Canada. The Canadian flag consists of 3 vertical bands of red, white, and red. The white band is charged with a depiction of a maple leaf, which is red in color. The white band is twice the thickness of each of the red bands, and this is what makes the design a Canadian Pale. And yes, the term Canadian Pale got its name from this flag. The flag of Canada also happens to be a special case of the Canadian Pale. The flag proportion is 1 to 2. What this means in terms of the bands is that the central white band forms the shape of a square. Returning to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for a moment, we can see the yellow band does not form a square and instead is rectangular in shape. That's because the flag's proportion is 2 to 3. Some people argue that a true Canadian Pale needs to follow the same flag and band proportions as the Canadian flag and therefore form a central band that's a square. However, the general consensus is that as long as the bands have a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1, then it's a Canadian Pale. We agree with this consensus, and therefore St. Vincent and the Grenadines, along with Canada, are both true Canadian Pales. But we also have a looser definition of the Canadian Pale. Essentially, this looser definition applies to flags which have a vertical triband where the central band is thicker than the outer bands, but the bands don't have a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. There is one national flag that fits this looser definition. Here is the flag of Andorra. It consists of a vertical tricolor of blue, yellow, and red. The yellow band is charged with the country's coat of arms. At first glance, and probably at second and third glance, it looks very much like the 3 stripes are all the same size. But in actual fact, they're not all the same size. It turns out that the yellow stripe is slightly thicker than the other 2, and the stripes have a ratio of 8 to 9 to 8. Here is a comparison of the actual flag on top and what the flag would look like if the stripes were of equal size at the bottom. With only a slight difference in stripe sizes, Andorra is not a great example, and in a few moments we'll be showing you some other flags that fit the looser definition of a Canadian Pale, as well as some more flags that are true Canadian Pales. But first we're going to answer the question of why a flag would use a Canadian Pale design to begin with. Let's take a look at our 3 country flags again. As well as the Canadian Pale, these flags all have something else in common. Can you see what it is? The answer is that all of them are charged. All 3 flags have a charge on the central band. By making the central band larger, it enables a flag to include quite a large charge. This is more often than not a good decision because making a charge larger makes it easier to see on a flag. Here is Canada once more, and this is what the flag would look like with the maple leaf remaining the same size and the 3 bands the same size as each other. As we can see, this doesn't work because the leaf blends into the 2 red stripes. So in order for a regular triband to work, we would have to reduce the size of the maple leaf, and this is what it would look like. Comparing the actual Canadian flag on the left with the regular triband variant on the right, we think the actual flag looks better because the maple leaf is larger and easier to see. So let's look at our other true Canadian Pale national flag. We have the actual flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the left, and on the right we have a regular tricolor variant. The diamonds are the same size as the original flag, and as we can see, they still remain within the yellow band. So in this case, we think the regular tricolor of stripes of equal size works just fine for this flag. And here is the flag of Andorra on the left with the variation on the right where the stripes are all the same size. Like the previous flag, the charge still fits comfortably within the yellow stripe, so once again we think a regular tricolor would also work just fine with this flag. Of course, that's ignoring the fact that complicated coats of arms shouldn't be used on flags to begin with, because flags should be simple in their design. So because we only have 3 examples from national flags, we're going to show you some other flags that use a Canadian pale. First up is the flag of the Northwest Territories, which is a territory of Canada. It's one of many Canadian flags that use the Canadian pale, which is probably not surprising given the popularity of the national flag. This flag directly copies the national flag with its 1:2 proportions and band proportions of 1:2 to 1, meaning the white band at the center is a square. This white square is charged with the territory's coat of arms. Next, we have another of Canada's territories, Yukon. This flag also has 1:2 proportions, but the stripe ratios are not the same as the flag of Canada. The ratio is 1 to 1.5 to 1. This means that the flag is not a true Canadian pale, but rather a variant. And we can see the white band forms a rectangle rather than a square. Comparing this flag to the Canadian flag, we can see the differences in the band sizes. Now we're going to travel south to Canada's neighbor. Here is the flag of the U.S. state of Iowa. Unfortunately, the band proportions are not officially specified, but the flag is usually interpreted as a true Canadian pale with the central white stripe being the same size as the blue and red stripes combined. All 6 of the flags we've shown in this video have charges on the central band, and that's no surprise given that the main reason to use a Canadian pale is to enhance and enlarge a charge. But could we use a plain Canadian pale? This is what the Canadian flag would look like without the maple leaf. So could this work as a flag? As a national flag, probably not, because it looks too much like the flag of Peru. But if we change the colors, then we could have some possible options such as this. This design using black, yellow, and black would be distinctive among national flags, and we think it could work. This yellow, blue, and white design might also be a possibility. So are there any national flags that should use a Canadian pale that don't currently use it? We think the answer is yes. We've identified a handful of flags which use regular vertical tribands that we think would work better as a Canadian pale. We plan to make another video talking about these flags, but for now we're going to show one example. Here is the flag of Mexico. It's a vertical tricolor of green, white, and red with the white stripe charged with the national coat of arms. We don't agree with having a very detailed coat of arms to begin with, but if a country decides it wants one, then it should make it large so that at least some of the details can be more clearly seen. Here is what the flag would look like using a Canadian pale. The white stripe is now double each of the green and red stripes. This true Canadian pale now allows for the coat of arms to be larger. Here is a comparison of the current flag on the left and the Canadian pale version on the right. We also have a second reason to change it. The flag looks a lot like the flag of Italy, which uses a plain tricolor of the same 3 colors. By changing it to a Canadian pale with a larger coat of arms, it looks less like the Italian flag than the current one. So what do you guys think of the Canadian pale? Do you think it's a good layout? Should it be used more often? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Remember to subscribe to the channel and check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.